2024 is a crazy year. Like holy shit, it's so crazy. I slurp almost every single media like Kirby hitting that high note. Because welcome to the ultimate review of 2024. Where I get to review everything that I watched that I didn't get to make a video of back in last year. So let's get straight into it. Alright, starting pretty random, and I'm sure just like me hanging out with my friends, it's something that nobody knows, like what the fuck is Exile? Exile is an Indonesian documentary. It covers the daily life of Indonesians who were exiled during the Cold War because of their ties to communism, meaning they have to spend the rest of their lives abroad and never to set foot on their home country, Indonesia. I watched this dark movie on theater without acknowledging it until minus day one, so I am going blind expectation with this. This movie follows a pretty abstract pacing because at times it jumps to another person telling their lives during the Cold War, and then it jumps to another person, and from my perspective, they did a really good job on feeling so many powerful elements from one part of a person's story in a short timeline. I was really hooked a lot of the times when they brought up the political stuff because the filmmaker throughout the movie tells it like a progressive thread, starting from the basic all the way up to how it was misused, and it ends up with these poor Indonesians being exiled, cut off from their families back home, and just how much the Indonesian government and the Western agent tried many brutal ways to dehumanize them even further. And I was really surprised that this documentary is like really critical of the Indonesian government. And also they aired this on theater. I mean not just like ordinary theater on film festival, but on a mall, specifically in the busy city of Surabaya. Like holy shit. Anyway, the third act gets really emotional and it is an easy recommendation. It's really good, really refreshing for the superhero addicts. This is yet another anime adaptation that I've never heard of the original anime. The only reason why I'm aware of this is because of none other than Moist Critical, the most authentic source for anything anime related. So to quickly run over the series, Yu Yu Hakusho is based off of a very old anime of the same name. And from my experience of watching this blind, I thoroughly enjoyed it so much. And not just that it's dumb, that it's fun, but every aspect of the story was made to get you hooked, to wait that there's gonna be an epic action-filled confrontation coming. Speaking of which, the action was so over the top from the camera work, the choreography, and the mixture of CG elements, and this adds to another reason of why this series is a banger. The Killer is a movie that follows Magneto after he retires from the Chief franchise and now works as a freelance assassin. This movie is a very structured mixture of mundane life of being an assassin and also self-defense story. To say this movie is dark and gritty is an understatement. It's the exact opposite actually, because it tries to play in with the realism aspect, so most of the scene in the movie took place in broad daylight. Because this movie is grounded and projects a grace morale, it's really hard for me to feel emotionally connected to the characters, but that doesn't take away the intensity of the assassination, since this movie is titled The Killer, it's about the killer doing the killing. And that really encapsulates the theme of the action thriller in the story, especially thanks to Michael Fassbender, who played the protagonist really well. So The Killer is just a little movie that you could watch on the couch if you're doing nothing. It's not a very special movie and it's never been intended to be that way, but for me, it is a solid movie. Oh boy, Deadpool and Wolverine, a blockbuster movie that I didn't get to make a video of because of my terrible schedule plus college day being interrupted with awful timing seminar that took over 2 months. Boy, remember when I won't shut up about being disappointed of watching Thor Love and Thunder on theater? Yeah, Deadpool 3 is kind of like that, but a little less painful. To best summarize this movie, it's as if the previous 2 Deadpool films got interrupted with the arrival of the TVA having some unfinished business with Deadpool, and also a lot shorter. Yeah, almost every aspect of the movie that makes a Deadpool movie a banger is present. The hilarious meta comedy is there, along with the over-the-top violence and grounded fight choreography. However, the movie also tries to, I guess, experiment by cranking up the hyperfixation on joking about the stakes of the movie and cameos. And it gets worse with the Wolverine himself barely have any character development until the third act, followed with again very short runtime, so I don't feel remotely immersed or emotional because of it. The villain is fine, although Cassandra Nova could have had more scenes because she is next to just being one dimensional. Overall, it's not a bad movie by today's standard of Marvel movies. I've heard Captain America 4 is not good, so that says a lot. But since this is a Deadpool movie, I have to recommend it. The Deadpool movies has always been a staple for superhero comedy with hidden emotional messaging, and while this movie is the weakest out of the entire trilogy, I'm still giving this the benefit of the doubt. Wait, what? A Godzilla movie that's not brain rot, trying to follow a real event and utilize the horrifying realism element, while also portraying Godzilla himself as a natural disaster deviant of any morale? Yeah, I was a bit disappointed at Godzilla X Kong, not because it's dumb, but the movie is too short. Godzilla Minus One is the exact opposite. It's so long that I got bored, and that's a good thing. I mean, I also got bored watching Oppenheimer midway. Godzilla Minus One is a Japanese remake of the original Godzilla that came out in 1954. I can say that the best aspect of this movie is the fact that it's not shying away at depicting the very crazed morale of the Japanese society even post World War II, knowing that they are cooked, really cooked. And when you mix that with the threats such as Godzilla, then you have unironically absolute cinema. The only downside is that the CGI of Godzilla is really off. At times he looks like, that characters from Godzilla PS4 game that came out in 2014. Yeah, like his movement is so wonky, which pisses me off because they won an Oscar for that. Unbelievable. Anyway, I like this movie a lot. I didn't get emotional, but still, give it a watch. This movie is the perfect proof of why I'm a dumbass. Because how the hell did I slap on Super Mario movie? One of the best video game movie in this decade. Because it perfectly translates the gameplay element of so many different Mario games into one movie, standing on top of a solid origin story taking place in the real world following a family issue. And this piece genuinely exceeds my expectation. And the finale is just even better, with every element just come crashing into one. I'm glad and also felt dumbfounded for the fact that I watched this movie in 2024. Damn, this is a really good movie. Let me in now. I'm not a fan of horror, obviously. Like, I'm pretty sure I never talk about any horror media, but I like this one. The environment, the pacing, and the characters of Longlegs are simplistic, and because of that alone, they managed to do some creative scary moments and jump scares that really hits. However, I just don't like that they reveal the entire lore in the end because it ruined the mystery surrounding the theme of the movie itself, which is ambiguity. But nonetheless, I like Nick Cage's performance. He nailed this psychopathic character. You need to see Longlegs. I've talked about this series before, so I'll just sum it up. The Penguin series, surprisingly, even though it took place in the same universe as the Batman, it still has the balls to drop the superhero theme and just went full on The Godfather. It is just brutal gang fights, mafia bribing the government conspiracy, drug trades, and I even gotten emotional because the show perfectly slipped in some powerful scenes that makes you care about the characters of the show. So, this is an easy recommendation.
Oh my god, bro.
The franchise is a slice of life comedy about filming a superhero movie. They're being self aware now. Since this is comedy, you know you need to just go 100% with the jokes. And the first three episodes were kind of like, yeah, that's funny in my head. But after that, it is just hilarious. I really love the fact that this show has a realistic approach on the filmmaking aspect of it, on how actually stressful filming a blockbuster superhero film is, and as someone who has done a couple short films in college, I can seriously relate to most of these things. I just wish they would go full Deadpool style of jokes since this show has a lot of swearing. I also want to add that this is probably the first time that Daniel Brühl, whom you may know as Zemo from Captain America Civil War, appeared in comedy, which is honestly even surprising that he nailed his role as the director, which is why he is one of my favorite characters. If you didn't know, Brühl is an actor who always played a depressingly serious roles. Like the last time we saw him was in All Quiet on the Western Front. So to see him going 180 on this is impressive. Anyway, the franchise is very funny and yeah, go watch it. Exploding Kitten is another series of slice of life comedy following the style of Family Guy, and this is also the first time I dove into this format. And I think most of my appreciation on this is already present and has already been addressed on my takes on the franchise. As usual, it's hilarious. It also brings some very powerful messaging about family, identity crisis, humanity. Unfortunately, the jokes here is less funny than the franchise. At times, it's painful to see, like they clearly come up with some jokes on the last hour after holding back for so long. I wouldn't recommend this show, but if you want to waste your time for once, Exploding Kitten might be a choice. Like a Dragon Yakuza, the funniest mafia game known to man. I think I've seen too many memes on the game than anything on social media, so I was incredibly shocked to see that the live action series is pretty realistically grounded, dark, and gritty, which obviously fits in with the theme of the Yakuzas. I think the best explanation for this is if the Penguin series has a gray morale, then Like a Dragon had a more good versus evil morale, which I actually like a lot more because the central plot of the movie is about family, and I really like how that family breaks up and had to face the Yakuza. I've said this before, and I am not a fan of quick back and forth flashback in an episodic format because it takes away the immersive and emotional experience, which unfortunately present here. But for a video game adaptation, Like a Dragon actually did really well, and I really urge you to watch it. It is one of the best pieces in a while. Puss in Boots 2. Why did I watch this movie 2 years after it came out? Good question, for another time. Honestly, there's a lot of big animated movies that I haven't watched, but that's for another conversation. I'm just gonna admit that I am sleeping on this movie, and holy heck, who would have expected that a Shrek spin off movie would be so good? It has every element of what makes an animated movie enjoyable, from intense setup of stakes, thrilling ambience, epic fight scenes, emotional moments about identity crisis, goofy characters. It managed to pack so much and project them enough for me to care, while the runtime itself is less than 2 hours. The pacing is fine. Nonetheless, I have next to no criticism. I really love this movie and thank you for the hype.
Huh? Huh?
Phantom 3 was way better than I expected. If only the movie was way longer and they put more efforts on the emotional connection between Eddie Brock and Phantom. From the story itself, the Infinity War kind of rushing adventure against another alien invader is perfect for the last entrance of the Venom storyline. However, it was executed very poorly. From the one-dimensional character writing, lack of world building, again, lack of emotional scenes. The only reason why I like this movie so much is because of the conclusion of the ending that made me realize that all those wacky symbiotic adventure was indeed worth it. But if only this movie had some efforts. It just feels like a side project that needs to be done quick, and sadly, that has been the entire Phantom trilogy.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no.
On God, I do not recommend What If Season 3, okay? Like, What If is a pretty good show that explores deeper about what if things goes wrong, free will, and stuff like that, but it was good for 2 seasons. The third season, it's just not worth it. Every episode was so short, I thought I was watching a Square Enix cutscene. The characters themselves were also like either overreacting or just being boring. And the final episode is literally just a showcase of new characters that lack any personality. Like, no kidding, I genuinely cut the press watching this piece of junk. Guys, Zack Snyder actually cooked on this one. Twilight of the Gods is the latest Zack Snyder's work. It's an adult cartoon about living in Sweden on winter season. Also, because this is an adult show, oh boy does it get extra explicit. But in seriousness, I liked it a lot. I liked it because the show is pretty brutal and serious, and on top of that, every character is likable. They're not being idiotic in any way, and overall, this is just a really good show. I was a bit disappointed with Miyazaki's latest movie, The Boy and the Heron, mainly because of myself. I thought this animated feature was gonna be a masterpiece, knowing that this is by Hayao Miyazaki, but it's not. The movie did a great job at capturing the anti-war and moving on from tragedies aspect followed by this semi-realistic fantasy element, but the amount of effort just stops there. Like the magical slash realism world building was amazing, but then the climax was just confusing and also disappointing. There isn't any dangerous threat throughout the movie, despite earlier on, there has been a very strong element of the protagonist going out of his way to uncover this wacky mystery about the Blue Heron. However, I did get emotional, and the story isn't that bad, but it is close to being mediocre. Tim Miller is back after retiring from Deadpool and Terminator Far Fate. Now he wrote Secret Level, an anthology series about your popular video games like Concord. Okay, but every episode of this series by standard is pretty good. I care a lot about these characters, the stakes and emotional aspects really got me. The world building is great, I just wish the episodes were longer, but it's enough. Overall, it's a good show, I recommend it. The first time I saw this trailer, I was like, huh, is this Star Wars for children? Who thought that this piece of crap is gonna be good? It is that good, like holy shit. Skeleton Crew actually proved me wrong. It explores a bunch of children in the Star Wars universe where they live in a privileged household but was never grateful and therefore they bugger off to a galaxy far, far away. And the reason why I have to say the plot is because it is the foundation on what makes the show absolutely great. I have never seen a children's show project so much of emotional moments from so many elements of until this series. Well, except X-Men 97. I also love the villain played by Jude Law, like he is so unlikable and one of my favorite characters of the show. Just go watch Skeleton Crew, you will not regret it. I also never heard of this piece of work until I Do Know Nothing recommended this on his channel. Rebel Ridge can be best summarized in if a cop action thriller is not violence at all. It took an interesting approach where a very exaggerated muscular man had revenge on the police, but instead of causing chaos, he wants to make things right. And one of those steps is no murder. While the lore of this movie is very shallow, the present day adventure was the aspect that makes you being hooked on. That there's more and will have more bad things happening in the future. I also have to say that a lot of the dialogue in this movie is very unrealistic. It's not bad by any means, but given the movie is trying to be realistic, the trying to be stoic cool dialogue just does not fit in at all. Overall, it's a fine action thriller. Oh boy, you might remember my very barely romantic relationship with the Transformers franchise. It's like the Transformers franchise is my dad's uncle and I am a local villager in East Timor. Wait, what? But I am so glad that Transformers 1, despite having a concept that I'm not excited of, ends up being a well-written origin story. I don't think I have a single criticism for this movie. The comedy, the characters, the villain origin, and the world building were all made with efforts. I laugh, I move. It's just a breath of fresh air that finally, after Bumblebee, we finally returned to make a good Transformers movie. I'm just saying it out of the blue, the creator is at best a very mediocre movie. The fact that I waited so eagerly back in 2023 but only got to see it now, expecting it to be a masterpiece like Rogue One since this was directed by the same guy, but it's not. It's also not a badly written movie. It perfectly tells the objective and the threat and the characters of the movie very well, how it projects the complicated role of human versus robot conflicts, but that's also the problem of the movie. It struggles to depict exactly just that. At times, I was really confused on who the real bad guy is and who the real good guy is. It also tries to juggle with not too many, but enough of different plots, such as a love story and ground operation. On top of that, the runtime isn't that long, so across the movie, I could not care less about any of the characters, and almost every aspect of this movie is just one-dimensional. Everything that's supposed to immerse you into this futuristic dystopian world instead makes you question the dumb decisions and thinking that these characters made. Now, to give credit, the creator actually successfully depicts the Southeast Asian cultures. As an Indonesian, I feel the ever-present anarchistic aspect of the robot rebellion, and especially I like to mention that they have a robot character played by Ken Watanabe named Harun, which is an Arabic name that's also common in Indonesia and Malaysia. Just a little touch that I appreciate. Other than that, it's a fine movie to turn your brain off. In this era of superheroes, let's be honest, most of the series on streaming services is just side projects that you would do in your free time. That's exactly what Creature Commandos is. Even if it was a superhero/misfit adventure written by James Gunn, I cannot help that the show only scratched the surface when it comes to the pacing and the plot. The only thing I can appreciate is the fact that this show does not pull any punches when it comes to cover very mature topics and how that relates to the characters, making us feel sorry and emotional to them. But again, the show is very short, each episode is 22 minutes, and there's only 7 episodes alone. Another one of his shows, such as Peacemaker, is way more worth the watch. However, if you insist on watching Creature Commandos, then it's fine. It's just another generic misfit story. TMNT Mutant Mayhem. I am speechless at how freaking good this movie is at everything. Right off the bat, in the first act of the movie, you already given enough materials on not just knowing who the turtles are, their daily lives, and the bad guys, but also their emotional aspect as well, which is kind of expected for a children movie in this era. But I also appreciate the addition to the pop culture in the modern era. Like almost every 60 seconds, these bozos just one shut up about their favorite Spotify artist. I love it. The only major complaint is just how much they butcher Master Splinter. Like instead of making him a stoic, caring, and wise old man who knows martial arts, therefore always subverted your expectation when it comes to his action, instead he is like a goofy goober who's there just for comedy, which really sucks because I barely gives a damn about him except for his motivational speeches. Overall, Mutant Mayhem is a decent adaptation of Ninja Turtles, so go watch them. Squid Game Season 1 is a banger, and unsurprisingly, the second season for this dystopian thriller also successfully delivered its element of the importance of money and how that could be used to control people, the humanization of the bad guys, the covert operation of the good guys, deception, and a whole lot more. Basically, Squid Game Season 2 had a bigger world building, showing us new characters that we really care for as much as how flawed and crab-eating personalities that they are. Sounds like what Invisible Season 2 could have been, don't you think? One major problem I have is that while each episode is over an hour long and managed to show us a bunch of different adventures for each characters, they only clock in at just 7 episodes as opposed to the formerly 9 episodes, which to me just feels almost a bit short. Overall, I really like it, cannot wait for Season 3. At times, DreamWorks just drops a really good animated movie out of nowhere, and The Wild Robot is one of them. It follows a robot that got lost in the wild, so you know this piece is gonna be emotional. It also has a plot following a deformed goose that the wild robot must train in order for it to survive for the next migration. And jeez, that adventure went really deep. 10 out of 10 movie, recommended it. Sonic 3, the third installment of a supposedly dumb action-filled kids movie based off of a video game adaptation of the same name, once again subverted my expectation. Well, mostly. It has the quirky trail adventures with your beloved iconic characters, actual comedic moments when it's necessary, emotional depth and tragedy, and also a well-written supervillain in a body of a decrepit old man. While I disagree with Jim Carrey portraying Eggman's grandpa, I have to appreciate the fact that he managed to play two characters with very distinct personality, yet both of them could easily resonate with one another because of certain very loud aspects of their characters. And holy cow, the third act does not pull any punches when it comes to a rising action. Shadow, admittedly, is my favorite character now because he is just so evil that he even gave Sonic the benefit of the doubt whenever he managed to do something that he couldn't, as if it's like a gladiator ring. This isn't the last movie on this review list, and I am so glad I closed off 2024 with this movie. I never expected it to be this good, but it delivers. I'm happy, goodbye everyone, and I'll see you on next time. I don't know when, but I'm gonna take a break now.